Hi everyone, welcome back to the Yellow Door podcast. I am so grateful that you've chosen to invest this time to listen, learn, and grow. I partner with you in transforming your being, work, and relationships. Our guests on the podcast will help us gain new perspectives, challenge our existing beliefs, and help us learn from their experience so we can unlock growth at the point that we are at. I truly believe that our choices define our life. My guest today leads a life of diverse experiences and has been masterful and authentic in aligning her life choices with what matters most to her. She is a certified yoga teacher with over 3,000 hours of teaching experience. She is also an actor in the Indian film industry, having acted in Tamil, Telugu, Hindi, and English films. She was also an anchor with a fitness show on NDTV Good Times. Passionate about music and trained in Hindustani classical as well as Western vocals and the piano, my talented guest today on this show, Aditi Chengappa. Hi Aditi, welcome to the podcast. Such a pleasure to have you. You and I go a long way back, and it's incredible that we're having this conversation together today.
Thank you, Sonam. Thanks for that introduction, and thank you for having me on Yellow Door podcast. I'm really happy to be featured on this kind of channel and with the things that you want to share with people. And for the viewers' knowledge, Sonam and I we went to the same school, so it's a very warm connection for me. And to meet you so many years later, yes, we're meeting digitally, but to meet you and connect with you and find that we have a very similar interest is really great. So it's wonderful to be a part of this with you.
Absolutely, likewise, Aditi. So I'm going to jump right in. There's a lot that I'd like to talk to you about today. Aditi, your life experience has been diverse and flavorful, if I may say so. You are a yoga teacher and you're an actor in the Indian film industry. And I have known you over these years to be someone who really lives in alignment with who you are, what you stand for, and really truly believe in. And that doesn't always come easy. You know, that likely involves making some tough choices. It involves navigating the internal aspects of our being. So I want to get into all of this with you today. So you grew up in Delhi. You did your schooling, your college in Delhi. And while in college, you started hosting the NDTV Good Times show. And then soon
Yeah.
after, moved into films. So talk to me about what inspired you to act and join the Indian film industry.
Yeah, Sonam. So the thing is, I never really planned to get into films. I never planned media itself. To be honest, I was I was just at that brink where I was thinking of pursuing music. I wanted to go, in fact, outside of India and study music in more depth. But then I happened to go for a wedding, and this director saw me, and it was a sangeet. I had danced and I sang, and he reached out to me and said, "Would you like to audition for a film?" And it was just a short conversation with my parents. And I must say, my parents also always encouraged me to try out things. You know, anything which I find a little interesting, why not? And there was no harm in it. So that's what happened. I went for an audition without thinking too much. I just thought, okay, here's an opportunity. Let me try. There is no harm in trying this out. And that audition led to the film and led to many more films. And I ended up working in all four industries. So it's been quite an experience stemming from an unplanned and just a leap of faith, something like that. Just whatever the universe is giving me, I'm just going with the flow. So that's how that happened.
Indeed, I think it's so beautiful when things happen when we don't anticipate them, and you kind of went along with that flow. Aditi, I know that you're not acting full time now. Was that,
Yes.
and you're teaching yoga instead now? So was that a conscious decision? Talk me through what that was like, that decision making.
Yeah, so at the point, I had done a couple of films, and then I didn't like some of the scripts which were coming my way. And I think for me, from the very beginning, some things were very clear about the choices I wanted to make in terms of what kind of characters I wanted to portray. So that's where I made this choice. And at the same time, as I was feeling these things, I had the opportunity to start teaching yoga. My guru's studio was right here. So it was the perfect opportunity to start doing that. And it didn't feel to me in any way inhibiting the possibility of working in films too. Teaching yoga, you will say full time, but of course, you're not teaching 24/7. You have certain hours which you give to it, and you can spend some of the other hours probably reading through more scripts or whatever, or going for auditions in case something interested you. So I like the fact that that door was not closed, but in the meanwhile, this is something I love doing. I'm passionate about it, so I can make that choice to do this.
Right, and I'm hearing a lot of clarity of thought. You had that level of self-awareness to know what's working for you and what's not working for you, and even if it means making a decision over scripts or teaching yoga, and making that continuous choice, so to speak, as work comes along your way, is something that you need to be consciously aware of what you want and what direction you want your life to take. What were some
Right.
of the thoughts at that point? Were there any feelings around letting go of certain opportunities? Talk me through, the thought process that you went through internally.
Right, absolutely. So I'm definitely going to give all the credit to the spiritual work that was happening within me and throughout my life. All the credit goes there for even giving you this sort of presence of mind to understand that this doesn't really work for you, and then to make that choice. It does require some courage, and I'm sure that that courage is because of this spiritual journey. Having said that, there were many moments where I felt like, am I being silly about this? If I want to be an actor, I must take up more opportunities, even if they don't perfectly fit the box which I want them to fit. And that was the industry advice too. And there's plenty of experiences, other people's experiences that you'll get to hear of. So you will definitely start doubting yourself. You'll start thinking, am I doing the right thing? Should I have just taken that role? Should I have just done it? And there's money. Of course, there is money involved. So I must say that knowing that I have another job that pays me made a big difference to making this choice. It is also a practical choice. And I understand if a person cannot make that choice because of a limitation like this. Having said that, I don't think a film industry or something like or let's say even the music industry is the place that you step into from the beginning thinking this is where I'm going to make my steady income. No, you can't think like that at all. It will either work for you or not work for you, and it's a roller coaster anyway. But I had this opportunity, and I had my income, so I was not that worried that I'm losing out on money. Even though it was big money, still it didn't feel right to me. It just didn't sit in well with me.
I was going to ask you about this, and you mentioned it, having the courage to take these decisions, to go by what feels right in the moment. And you talked about the considerations, the tactical considerations, even contemplating on whether there's any regret associated with letting go of certain opportunities. And these are the real aspects of what we go through. Be it in any profession, you're constantly placed with a choice of one job versus another, or moving to a particular industry, and we go through this. So thank you so much for bringing this to light and being candid about it.
No,
uh,
and I think so.
yeah.
We must address this so that the audience knows that you have done a very similar thing in your life. You have also changed your career very bravely. You've made career choices, and I think again it's a similar thing. I think you feel the same way, is that you wanted to live authentically and you wanted to live your truth. So the audience must know that aside from being a mindfulness and a life coach, you have also worked in the UN. and you've done the entire corporate thing with the sustainable development, and you could have been like very high up in there if you just stayed on that course. But somewhere you felt that no, this is not where I want to be. I want to do something different with my life, and you made a brave choice. I know you did. You probably left, let's say, power and money to a certain extent to come and make this choice. So let us not leave that out, that you have done a very similar wonderful thing.
Thank you so much. That's very kind of you. I will accept it with gratitude. Yeah, I think it's just going along with what feels joyful, what feels right, and completely resonate that sometimes it's not easy because of a lot of the external noise, and you really need to tune into what's within. So that's the
Yes,
compass that guides us. Thank you so much for
absolutely.
sharing that. Thank you. So tell me about mental health. Let's come to mental health. Is it harder to maintain equilibrium or have good mental health in an industry specifically like the Indian film industry? Do you think it's harder in this industry? Talk to me about what your experience was like.
Absolutely. I think, especially in an actor's case, there are so many factors. There's the environmental factors, there's your physical factors, then there's emotional, mental. Boy, it tests you in every way. So when you step into this industry, I think you should be warned beforehand that you're putting yourself in their hole. Like all of you is going to be tested in every way possible. And here, and when I say that, what I mean very literally is that you might be shooting in a place where it's snowing, but you have to wear a short dress. So there's your physical test. And then you have to get into characters which you may or may not agree with, and I mean that may not be an issue for everyone, but it is a feeling when you're trying to portray an emotion. You want to connect with that character. Sometimes you may not connect at all, so that is hard work on you. And the opposite thing can happen is that you connect too deeply and you're not able to come out of it. So a lot of method actors get into that zone, and especially if your character was not in a good place emotionally, you might also go there and then stay there because you haven't learned to detach from that. And I mean, these are just like hazards. Let's say these are mental, emotional hazards that actors go through. And beyond all of that, which is already so testing, is that constant being in the public eye, always having eyes on you, always worrying about how do I look, what am I wearing, is my weight all right, is my skin, hair, gosh, it is so cosmetic. And that is very difficult for a spiritual person to be with, because we are constantly going inwards. So when we are again brought forward into the outside, you start to feel very strangely detached to everything, even though you're thinking, so this is my feeling, these were my thoughts when I went back into acting. After teaching yoga for 2 years, 2.5 years, I again went back into acting because I liked what I got. And these were my thoughts throughout. There was a sense of detachment because now I have traveled further inwards. So now these ways of having to judge myself externally became very difficult for me. It's an extremely harsh environment. And I will say that the only way you can sustain there is if you are deeply passionate. If you are deeply, deeply passionate about films, about acting, then you can sustain yourself through it all. And I think we can say this about almost anything, is that if you're very passionate, you're ready to, you know, get burnt in the process. But I wasn't. I'll be honest about that, is that films and acting was not, is not my deepest desire or my passion. And my passion remains with serving people and teaching yoga. So that helped me to stay detached from it, and that helped me to be able to say no to the films and come back to what I'm doing again and again. And even after that, getting bigger opportunities and absolutely saying no, not even going for an audition, just saying no, I really don't feel like I loving what I'm doing right now. It's better on me emotionally, physically, mentally, in every way. This is healthy, not better, it is the best thing for me.
And you describe this, when your external environment is quite different from the internal compass that you have, and everything that the growth that you're going through internally, and this was just coming up as you were speaking, does it make it easier to navigate the external stuff with the self-awareness and with this internal compass that you have? Or does it make it even more challenging because they're just so different, the two worlds? And I was even thinking about what happens when someone is deeply passionate about, say, acting, and then they have a personality like yours.
Mhm.
What potentially, how do they kind of navigate that and bring about a compromise between internal external environments? So what was your
Right.
experience like being evolved, having gone through a spiritual journey very early in life, and having that with you now, navigating an external environment which is very different? So
Yes.
what was that like? Was it
Yeah.
difficult, or did it
So
make it easier?
it's a great question. I think it's a bit of both. So, like you said, I am certain that if a person was very passionate about acting and this is really what they wanted from their lives, they want to act, they want to do films, then that plus this inner compass which keeps you centered and keeps you detached. I mean, it's a detachment where it doesn't mean that your passion is gone. You know what I'm talking about. You're detached so you don't get sucked into the tornado of things if it's becoming chaotic. At the same time, you're able to give yourself fully to what you're doing. You're giving it 100%. So yes, if you're passionate, I think this compass will help you. You'll do well. You'll manage to get through things better than what I was doing. But I think if you're doing yoga, it's a different thing altogether. If you're doing a lot of yoga, I feel like you become very close to your body and you love your body. When that happens, it's difficult to do these kind of things. Acting means a lot of roughing it out, and it's not easy on your body in any way because your sleep cycles are off, your food timing, I don't know what you're eating sometimes. It's just all haywire. You can't get it into a schedule and maintain it. And which is, you can imagine how that is difficult when it's so cosmetic, but you can't do the things which are basically necessary for you to look good cosmetically. So it's a real clash of things. And me having done so much yoga, I reached a point where I was like, I cannot stand under a cold waterfall now. I can't do that to my body for the sake of any amount of money. But I mean, that is my choice. And I wouldn't judge anyone for making that choice to go ahead and do that. Absolutely. You're allowed that choice. But for me, it was not possible to do.
Thank you for taking that question. Um, I made you answer a hypothetical question, so thank you for kind of processing that for me, and it came up as you were sharing. Aditi, talk me through your spiritual journey. You mentioned your mother when you were speaking, you've mentioned your guru. Talk me
Yes.
through how that journey began until this point where you're now teaching. You have over 3,000 hours of teaching experience at this age.
Yeah.
So talk me through what that was like, and what it's actually made you who you are. So I'd love to hear about that.
So I must say it is hard to put into words exactly what has happened. I mean, from when I met my guru up till now. Um, but I would say that at every step there was a new learning. So even though there were difficult experiences, my guru is not my guru, Dr. Bharat Thakur, is not the kind of guru who would just sort of preach to you. So that was not his style from the get go. His style was always to guide you through your experiences, which you need to have, which are essential for your growth. And he's just there on your side. And he would, of course, steer me certain ways. And I think more than anything, um, putting in a thought now and then when I'm going through a certain phase, he would just drop in a thought, a suggestion, and that thought would be, we could take that as a seed for my transformation. because it would guide me through the whole process. So that entire process I went through with that seed somewhere in me. So it's not like I didn't experience it fully, but I had that seed. And by the time I reached the end, it had grown into a nice big tree of learning. So I came out of it, instead of being lost and heartbroken, I came out of it feeling like, oh, wow, I made this progress within me and I learned something about myself and I went deeper. And that was the idea from day one, is to go deeper within. So over the years, that's what happened. Yoga, best thing that happened to my life. And when I started teaching, I realized this comes to me naturally, if I can say so myself. It just happened. And when I started teaching, people enjoyed the classes. And then more people came and the batches grew. And I ended up teaching in more than one center. It all happened so fast. And it felt so natural and so organic. And it was so joyful that I actually couldn't wait to come back to teaching. So I would do the movies, but it would be on my mind somewhere that, gosh, the happiest I ever felt was when I was teaching. And I'm lucky that my parents were, cool all the time. The typical thing to say is, you chose this thing, now stick to it. How can you keep making changes? And this is what a lot of people hear. I mean, okay, fine, I know parents invest a lot in you, so they have a right to try and guide you on your path. But there is this sort of thought which is like, acha, you've done the MBA, now you better stick to that, you know but it doesn't happen. Like, human beings change. We have this thing of changing. And I'm just lucky that they were fine. They were like, okay, you want to teach yoga now? That's great. You're great at this. You want to do films again? Okay. So, but they were there like rocks for me. If I didn't have their support, I wouldn't make these choices. So I cannot leave them out. They're a big cause for me making courageous decisions.
Absolutely. I think our relationships go such a long way, and we can do a completely a complete episode just on this. And I feel very passionate about this. I've experienced this in my life. Relationships are, if you have rock solid relationships, they go such a long way in you optimizing yourself, doing the range of things that you can do. So I completely resonate with that.
Yeah, so I also think that your parents being on a spiritual path is like, it's also adding to your own journey and your path. So that made a huge difference to me, is that both my mom and dad as well are into yoga and definitely very spiritual from the start. So that helped me even more in my journey coming this far. And as you would agree, that this is a lifelong process. So we haven't stopped. We are growing spiritually every single day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Aditi, it's been a beautiful journey so far. Tell me, what is it that you're aspiring towards in the future? Is there something coming up? What are you looking forward to?
Yeah. So just like you, I have a similar feeling towards what I'd like to do with my yoga, which is that you want to make something accessible and easy for people to implement. So the way you're doing that with development, personal development, I would like to do the same thing with my yoga. And for now, I think my current goal is to get started on my YouTube channel and try to bring yoga videos which are easy for everyone to do, so they don't feel intimidated from day one and just feel like, I don't have a yoga body, so I can't do this stuff. So I want to try and come up with something that everyone can relate to easily, and hopefully fall in love with yoga and want to do more of it in their lives. So that's my current goal. And of course, we will try to reach as many people and help as many people with it.
Wonderful. That's a great thought. And I, of course, look forward personally to the YouTube channel. Any closing thoughts, Aditi? You wrapped it up beautifully. And anything else that you'd like to add?
Since our general theme has been about films and balancing life, so I think, let me just address that part itself. Let me stick to that topic. In what I would like to say is that those who are aspiring actors, don't leap right into it. What I mean is, have some backup, have your education backup. Unless someone is giving you a direct ticket into a film, You're very lucky, you're getting a break without doing anything. Great, take it up, of course, dive into it. But if you're not, and you just thinking, I would like to be an actor, looks glamorous to me, don't do that. Please do study something, because you need that backup, because you don't want to be getting into this kind of an industry feeling desperate, like there is nothing else I have and I have to do this. When you're desperate, you make choices that you regret later. So let it come from a place like, I have a plan B. If nothing works here, I can earn for myself. I will not be a burden to anyone, not even to myself. So I think that's very essential. And it doesn't sound very romantic, but it's a practical thing. And we live in a world where we need to earn. We all need to earn. So have your backup and then dive right into films.
Thank you so much. That's beautiful. I think we all hear a lot of follow your passion. So that's been out there. And I think realistic advice and something, you've been through this. So thank you so much again, Aditi, for being candid, for being real. And I am confident that you're going to go ahead to inspire, guide, and many more, and spread joy around you. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And I look forward to many more conversations together.
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you all for listening and watching. For those of you who'd like to connect with Aditi, her handles are there on the description of our YouTube channel. And of course, if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the Yellow Door Talks. Do not miss the next video and the podcasts that do come out. Take care and be well.